So when I say, if you ever meet anybody who would love to own their own business but doesn't know how, tell them to call me because I'd like to get them match them with a franchise. You just told somebody that when I say red, you think 3. When you meet this person, tell them about me. And the way you do that is you just repeat it over and over and over. If you know anybody who wants to start a business, tell them to go to my website. And people just do it because you told them to do it.
Trying to reach my goals, got no time for mistakes. Yeah, I'm standing on business, need a big safe. Suited up, got the blueprint in the briefcase. It's go time on the grind, needs a big stakes.
Broadcasting from the Franchise Sidekick studio, welcome to the Sidekick Life. Get ready for stories of passion, problem solvings, and success from those living life on their terms. All right, welcome back to the Sidekick Life. We're super excited. We're here in Scottsdale, Arizona. We're here for our big event of the year, and our keynote speaker is here with us, Donald Miller, the author of StoryBrand, one of the most impactful books I've ever read to make a real difference in my business. So welcome.
That's very kind of you. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Donald, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about how StoryBrand was created.
It's a very funny story, actually. I was living in Portland, Oregon. I was a writer. And my assistant said, why don't you do a conference? And there's all these people emailing you. Why don't you get together with them? So I said, okay. And we rented a theater with 700 seats, sent out an email, 350 people showed up. And I just felt like that wasn't enough people. We delivered a really great conference. The survey said they would tell their friends. I said, problem solved. 8 months later, we did it again, and 350 people showed up. So I realized that I was very good at writing the 300-page book, but not good at writing the sentence that makes people want to read it. So I developed the StoryBrand framework because I'd been working with narrative structures to write books and screenplays. I knew how powerful it was to get attention. When you're trying to get an audience to pay attention to something, you got to obey these rules when you're telling a story.
Right.
There's very fundamental rules. So I sort of developed that framework and used it as a filter to help me create some messaging for my conference. And all we did was change the website, change the emails that we were sending out to invite people. We sent those emails to the exact same people that we had already sent 2 sets of emails to. So we had burned that list. I mean, anybody would tell you that list is done.
Right.
We sent it to the same one, and we filled up that conference, and then we filled up one with 1,200 seats and another one with 2,500 seats. So I learned pretty quickly, the way you talk about your product actually is a great predictor of whether or not anybody's going to buy it. And the framework has now become a book, and it's a best-selling book. And so I just go around and do consulting on helping people figure out how to talk about their businesses so that people place orders. And it's a pretty fun life, actually.
I want details here. Okay, so we have a conference right now, so I want to know exactly what those words you changed were, because I want to know.
Gosh, that was now 15 years ago. So that conference, I can't even remember what I said on stage, much less how we built it. I've done so many since then.
But it worked. It
worked extremely well. I mean, it worked shockingly well.
Yeah.
And then I turned it into a framework. And even before I had a book, I was testing it with small groups of, like, come spend a day with me in Nashville and I'll help you figure out your messaging. And Ford Lincoln was the first call. Procter & Gamble was the second.
Oh, wow.
And so I knew we were off to the races really quickly. The problem is you're so close to your business that you actually don't fully realize why people are buying your products. And if we can figure out what problem you're solving and how to articulate that problem, a lot more people are going to be interested. Yeah. So I always say StoryBrand is the only business I can't help because I'm so close to it. I'm in my own jar trying to read the label. But I can help you.
Yeah. Well, you did help us, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But for those that aren't familiar, would you maybe just talk a little bit about the framework itself, like how it works?
Yeah, exactly. I'll give you a summarized kind of version of it. Messaging works in sort of 3 phases. Like if I'm going to create a messaging campaign for you, it works like a house. And what I mean by that is, like, if you looked at my house in Nashville, there's 5 front steps. You climb up those 5 front steps, there's a front porch, and then there's a front door. So 5 front steps, front porch, front door. That's the house. That design makes a house inviting, warm, friendly. The 5 front steps, is in terms of my metaphor here, represent 5 sound bites that you need to come up with. And those sound bites, they spell out an acronym, PEACE. Problem, empathy, answer, change, end result. You need those 5 sound bites or nobody's going to end up on your front porch. And by the front porch isn't even where you place the order. The front porch is where you're doing due diligence, like white papers and lead generators and webinars and YouTube videos and things, social media campaigns. You know, the customer now is very curious about you and they're doing their due diligence. And then the front door is actually where they pull out the credit card in order to get into the front door. And so there's messaging that invites people to walk through the front door. Those 3 levels of messaging every business needs. Almost every business that I work with has no front steps. So they've got some stuff where they're educating people. You know, I've seen it even since I've walked in this room. You guys have a tunnel that you walk through. That's front porch collateral. It's not front step collateral. And so I think the most important thing that you can deliver if you want to grow your business are those front steps. In fact, I would even argue, and I'm not a huge fan of either political party, so don't think I'm getting partisan here, but I would argue that our president, Donald Trump, got elected with only front steps. He had no front porch collateral. Just front steps. You know, build a wall. Make America great again.
Right.
You know, just little bitty sound bites that the body politic listened to and went, well, that sounds good. That sounds important. Meanwhile, everybody he's running against is diving deep into white papers on, you know, our national debt and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, and he's able to do that too, but he's smart enough to know people aren't sitting down drinking a glass of scotch trying to figure out who they're going to vote for president. They're going with their gut based on sound bites. You need to do the same thing with your business. And you need some very second grade level, repeatable, memorable sound bites that you can say and you can put on your website, you can email to people, and you can put it on your social media, and you can open up your podcast with it and close your podcast with it. Say it in the lobby at church that people say, when can we get together? Or better, they just pull out their credit card and say, hey, can you just give me that?
And it's 5, only 5. You just need to come up with a 5 and repeat them over and over again.
That's right. Yeah. You need a problem soundbite. For instance, let me give you an example. There's a company called You Need a Budget. They have an app that you can buy on the App Store. They're making $50 million a year off of this one app. They have one product. It's an app. It's a budgeting app. Obviously, you need a budget. And they came to me and said, we don't like the word budget, and we don't want to use these terms, blah, 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 but we need sound bites. So they sent their whole team to Nashville, and I did a soundbite session with them. The 5 sound bites that we came up with, one is the problem. So the problem is, have you ever worried about money?
Of course.
Right? The second one is empathy. So problem, then empathy. We know how it feels to worry about money. The third sound bite is answer. Don't overthink it. Just download the YNAB app. That's it. That's the sound bite. The change, which is C in the PEACE framework, change is the transformation that the customer is going to experience if they buy your product. And so theirs is, and we will help you get good with money. And then the end result, the final soundbite is, so you never have to worry about money again. So think about those soundbites. They invite a customer into a story. If you ever worry about money, we know how it feels to worry about money. Download the YNAB app. We'll help you get good with money so you never have to worry about money again.
Takes you right back to the original problem.
Well, you have to close the loop that you opened in soundbite number 1 in soundbite number 5. That's a rule. So I would expect that YNAB, they are going to execute that. They promised me they would execute it better than any client I've ever had. If they do so, it would not surprise me if within 24 months they are doing $100 million, because they were just missing front steps. They had such a great product that people were crawling up to the front porch to get it and to learn more. But you stick some front steps on there, and a lot more trick-or-treaters walk up that ramp, you know?
That's incredible. That's great. So work me through that process. So you workshop with them for, you know, what, a couple days?
Took us about 2 hours.
Okay. Wow. 2 hours.
Took us about 2 hours. And
okay.
For $50 million, by the way.
Well, we were going back and forth and all that kind of stuff. And then once we had the sound bites, we began looking at their marketing collateral, like literally just looking at their website and crossing things out and replacing it with our new sound bites. And then coming up with campaigns. For example, you know, if you had, you know, one of the ideas is we'll help you get good with money. So that, by the way, is their new tagline. get good with money is their new tagline. It came out of that Soundbite session. Well, you know, we talked about lead generators, 5 signs that your boyfriend is bad with money. Truckload of girls are going to download that lead generator. So now you're actually taking the idea or the story, you are bad with money, let me help you get good with money through the YNAB app. And you have like a world of creative outlets for that. You can do an entire social media campaign. You could pick the top 20 trending celebrities and decide whether or not they're good with money or bad with money. And then that's a 20-day social media campaign. 5 ways Taylor Swift is great with money, right? 5 ways, I don't know, Carrot Top is bad with money. Actually, Carrot Top is probably very, very good with money, so I can't throw him under the bus. But you know what I mean? Yeah. And now you're actually just taking modern trends, but you're folding those modern trends or those current trends into your messaging campaign and bringing yourself a lot more attention. The very first social media post that they used, by the way, using our messaging, went viral and had 10x more likes than anything they'd ever posted before. So these sound bites aren't just goofy little taglines. They're attention-grabbing devices.
Hey Sidekicks, it's Ryan Zink here. I'll never forget the moment I opened my first franchise, helping my first customer, hiring my first employee, and cashing my first check. It wasn't just a business, it was the beginning of living life on my terms. When Tyler and I started Franchise Sidekick, we reimagined how people would find brands and succeed in franchise ownership. We're the fastest growing franchise advisory group in the country because we built a smarter, tech-driven system. Our approach has helped people just like you purchase over 10,000 franchise locations, and we've earned a 5-star rating on Google doing it. Now we're sharing exactly how we do it in a quick 20-minute webinar titled 10,000 Locations and Counting, the Franchise Buyer's Blueprint. If you're ready to explore a path to financial freedom and take control over your future, this is your first step. And did I mention, our services are always 100% free. Click the link below to sign up now because you deserve to live life on your terms.
So how do you pivot? So how do you test that? Obviously, you're going to start to throw things out there, social media, different campaigns, and I assume they're just waiting to see the metrics. But like, how would you reiterate that, or how would you iterate on top of it once it starts to go out?
Well, you start by workshopping those sound bites in a line at Starbucks. I mean, you literally just hit the street, call your aunt, you know what I mean? Like sit down with the family at dinner. And when you've got one that people are just going, oh, that's strong. Or if one of your kids say, you know, Dad, I've never understood what you did until today. You found it. And then you begin, you know, you can hire companies to A/B test these things. Just change your website. Just change your website for 30 days. And if your sales are up by 20%, we're on to something. And so, you know, different ways of testing it. But the interesting thing is most business messaging is so bad, it's so vague and so elusive that even an okay message will improve your sales.
That's one thing I really appreciate about how you do it. You make it so simple. 5 steps. I mean, you just explained that to me for the first time, and I think I'll never forget the PEACE acronym again.
And probably, can you tell me, we'll do a little test here.
Okay.
You Need a Budget is a $50 million app company.
Yep.
Give me the problem that people have that they should download this app.
Well, if they're bad with money, it probably means they're unorganized on where their money is being spent.
Yeah.
Right? And so the app is going to organize their financial world.
I mean, that's right. That would sell it right there at a dinner party.
Right.
And so you already know why somebody should download this app. But if you said you need a budget, you'd probably infer that, but you'd have to use a lot of brain calories. The brain actually burns calories. You'd probably have to think too hard to get there. Mm-hmm. And what you want is, when you talk about your business, you want people to just immediately say, I need that. And if it's cheap, download it immediately.
Right.
Or just buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I've done that. If you said to me, Don, there's this supplement that, you know, you get such great sleep on this supplement, you can sleep 6 instead of 8 hours. Mm-hmm. That's in my Amazon cart before we finish the conversation.
Immediately. Mm-hmm.
Right? But if you said there's a great supplement out there that, you know, takes your beta brainwaves, you talk over my head, I'm like, oh, that guy's really smart, and I don't buy anything.
Yep. Yeah, we came from that world, and keeping it simple always was better than trying to explain the ingredients and everything else in that bottle.
There's a guy in my mastermind who sells supplements, and he has a supplement called Broccoli, and he has a supplement called, he's got 5 or 6 of them. And we literally just changed his product descriptions to say, if you're having trouble sleeping, this is going to really help. If you're on any sort of metformin or drug that helps you regulate insulin, this will contribute to that. Just basically naming the problem that the supplement helps solve. And he saw a 400% increase in sales.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah. But just by changing the copy he used to describe the product was a 400% increase in sales.
Unbelievable. So where do people usually go wrong here, right? You say their messaging is messy. Why? Why does it start that way?
They are so close to their products and services. There's several ways they go wrong. Let me walk you through some of them. Yeah. They're so close to their products and services, they think that they're making it simple, but it feels simple to them because they're so educated. So this is an area where intelligence doesn't help you. You need to be able to know what your product is and simultaneously compartmentalize your brain and pretend to know nothing. And that's the key to creating really good messaging. So they know so much that they start talking over their customers' heads. Another rule that you never want to break is never, ever, 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 ever try to sound smart. And, if you came to me and you said, Don, we really need help with our messaging, and I was saying, well, there's ancient narrative structures that started with Plato. I've lost it.
Yeah, already.
But what I need to say is, you need a tagline that people can resonate with real quickly. Let's sit down and talk about it. And, I use the term magic words.
Yep.
I literally say, the word abracadabra comes out of sort of a Jewish tradition, and it means to speak something into reality. And there are words that you can use to grow your business that are as powerful as abracadabra. You will literally start using these words and the business will grow. And so I just basically say, let's sit down and try to figure out magic words.
Well, you just hit us between the eyes right before this, because we often talk about buying a franchise, and you said, hey, if you don't mind, I'd like to, do this for you.
I can't help it.
Yeah. And you said, really, people don't want to buy a franchise. People want to buy a business, but we're so close to franchising, we immediately skip the steps.
You assume that I know what a franchise is.
Right.
And you also, whenever somebody says the word franchise, I think a lot of people listening think sandwich shop.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I have no idea why.
Or fitness. We get that a lot too, like fitness concepts. Or,
so when you say, let us help you buy a franchise, I'm going to say no, because I don't want a sandwich shop. But if you said, have you ever wanted to start a business but don't know how, you should consider just buying a franchise. At that point I go, okay, well now I'm interested. Like what? And you'd say, and it's really important for you probably to say, a lot of people think franchises are just sandwich shops. There's actually 300 different kinds of franchises you can buy. One of them is going to be a perfect fit for you. You can also say, I'm like a matchmaker. I help you find the franchise that's right for you, that you love to run. Those are all sound bites that you can use at a cocktail party. By the end of it, I'm probably quitting my corporate job, talking to you guys about how I can find my franchise.
I should cut you a check.
I know. I'm like, fantastic. So Don, like this is a big thing for, you just talked about a $50 million company. What about the local companies, or even somebody who owns a franchise, or maybe even an HVAC company or something like that? How do they prioritize this? Because there's a lot of people listening to this thinking, I've got so much to work on. I've got all these employee issues. How important is messaging to that business?
If you have your product right and you've got your people right, you don't have dysfunction in your business, and you're doing well, but you just sense you're not reaching your potential. That if you're a $10 million company and you can't figure out why you're not a $100 million company, I can virtually guarantee you your problem is positioning. It's how you're talking about your products. Because people love it, right? I mean, look at me. Like I sent the survey out for my conference. People loved it. And the very next one still was a half-empty room. So the idea that if you build a great product, people will come, Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams, is a lie.
Yeah.
If you build a great product and talk about it the right way, then people will show up. We offer a workshop called StoryBrand Your Business. It's live in Nashville. It's in January. And the best way to do it is you and maybe a member of your team or a couple of members of your team come spend 2 days with us. You will walk out of the room with your 5 sound bites, probably a new tagline, and an execution strategy of where you're going to put that stuff. And we've even got a coach sitting there with you and 7 other business leaders in the room. And they're going to look at your website and start crossing things out and replacing text right there in the room. So, it's a laborious process. You have to burn a lot of calories. It's very, very hard to simplify things. But the more calories you burn doing that mental work, the less calories that the public have to burn individually to pull out their credit card and buy something from you.
That's incredible. So talk real quick, because I know that's the original premise of you of like going back to more primitive times when your body had to produce or did not want to burn calories. Talk more about that, because you mentioned a few times it's definitely in your DNA. You believe this strongly. So talk more about that.
The human brain burns between 600 and 800 calories a day. About 20% of the calories that you burn in your body on a given day are burned by your brain. So it is, by the way, that's the organ in your body that burns more calories than anything else. So if you think a lot, if you're taking the bar exam, you will burn exponentially more calories that day. Because of that, the brain is always trying to conserve calories. The brain is always trying, believe it or not, the brain is trying not to think. And it only wants to think about things that pertain to its survival. So it's prioritizing, your brain is constantly prioritizing what to think about. If you're driving down the street, you probably passed 25 billboards. You didn't read any of them because your brain is saying, we don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need that. It's thinking, let's get to Starbucks and get some caffeine because that's a survival asset. So your brain is always trying to find survival assets and ignore anything that's not a survival asset. And it's doing that to conserve calories because that's a survival method in itself. If it burns too many calories early in the day, it has no ability to survive for the rest of the day. So it's trying not to think. The reason I say that is your sound bites need to associate your product with the survival of your customer or guaranteed they will ignore you. I don't care what you're selling. Every one of us is actually selling survival. And if you can't associate your product with survival, you can't sell it. So these sound bites are, have you ever worried about money? Well, if you've worried about money, you're worried about survival, right? We know how it feels. I empathize with you. Now you have a sidekick or a partner who is worried with you. Well, now I'm not alone. Well, that's survival. You have now helped me. You're sitting with me and helping me survive. You're comforting me. Download the YNAB app. That's the tool that you're going to use to get good with money. In other words, to be able to survive so that you never have to worry about survival or money again. Or more accurately, you never have to worry about survival again. So the reason I guarantee that those sound bites will work is because they stopped selling an app and they started selling survival.
I think I know the answer, but I want to ask you anyway. So we're talking about the 5 steps that come up to the front porch. We're on the porch, we go in the door. Now, once the customer is in your business, in your house, do you still recommend they keep it soundbite simple as they're explaining the product?
You want to give them brand evangelist sound bites. So once they're inside of your house, there's a whole series of other sound bites that you're repeating to them so that they can tell their friends about the app or whatever it is that you're selling. And so people tend to spread word when you give them the words to say, right? And so your job with your customers, with your paying customers, is to execute a messaging campaign that gives them the words to say to their friends so word begins to spread.
Keep going on that. So talk about this budgeting app. So they're in, let's say they've already downloaded or whatever. Give me some more of that evangelist talk tracks.
I would actually, on that particular client, whenever you can double up sound bites, you want to, because you don't want to give people too many things to have to memorize. So I would actually say, do you know anybody who's bad with money?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Give them the YNAB app, for a year for half price and let us help them get good with money. So you want to be known. Know anybody graduating from college? Would you like for them to be good with money? Get them the YNAB app and we'll help them get good with money. Have you ever talked to anybody who's having a money struggle? YNAB app is those are the words you are literally saying, when you see this, give them this. And when you see anybody struggling with money, get them the why know that. That's what I would do.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, for you guys,
I was going to ask, like,
have you
I'm
ever
going to be
met any-
selfish
yeah.
here. Like, tell
Have
me
you
somebody
ever
just
met
buys a
anybody who-
franchise.
Have
What's
you
the
ever
next
met
step?
anybody who wishes they own their own business? Tell them they should start a franchise and to call us. Right? That's
Yep.
it. So anybody who's ever thought about owning their own business, are you tired of working in a corporate job? If so, consider owning your own business and consider a franchise. Give us a call. You want a trigger that, if I say the word red, I want you guys to think of the number 3. Okay? Red. What number did you think of?
3,
Why?
because you told me to.
Because I told you to. Do you see what I'm saying? So when I say, if you ever meet anybody who would love to own their own business but doesn't know how, tell them to call me because I'd like to get them match them with a franchise. You just told somebody that when I say red, you think 3. When you meet this person, tell them about me. And the way you do that is you just repeat it over and over and over. If you know anybody who wants to start a business, tell them to go to my website. And people just do it because you told them to do it.
Again, I just love how simple it is. Every time I listen to you, I've listened to your book several times. I've listened to your podcast, and every time I just feel like it's so simple. It makes sense.
It's
Now,
simple, but it's hard to execute.
yeah.
It takes enormous amounts of discipline to do it. And confusion will begin to attack you
Yes.
the second you try to be simple.
That's so true, because I often feel like I have clarity when I'm listening to you, or even when I'm thinking about what my sound bites might be, and then I go try to explain it to a coworker or try to apply it in my business, and I feel like I'm not doing as good of a job as Donald would explaining.
Well,
why
you're
this is
probably doing a
important.
better job because you're trying.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
you'll get results from that
Yeah.
for sure.
So I want to pivot a little bit here, and I was telling you this beforehand. So you had a major impact on our business as we were thinking about what to name it and how to talk about it, because we knew that we wanted to be an effective way to reduce risk when buying a franchise, but we didn't know how to talk what we wanted to call it or how we were going to talk about it. I was writing all kinds of names down, and Tyler said, "Take a break. I want you to go read this book called Building a StoryBrand." So I picked it up on a Friday. I finished it on a Sunday. Monday I came back and I said, I think we should call it Franchise Sidekick. And it was because if the client is the hero and we want to reduce their risk, well, who reduces the risk of a hero?
Yeah.
It's a sidekick. And if our client wanted to own a business and our recommendation is going to be a franchise, then we are their franchise sidekick. And right away, your framework in one weekend named our business and helped us create how we were going to talk about it.
And when you guys asked me to speak, Franchise Sidekick, I could pretty much with 80% clarity know what you are. I mean, that is so hard to accomplish with 2 words.
Yeah.
And when you guys told me what you do, I was like, well, I was actually pretty accurate just off of 2 words. The other thing is Sidekick is a survival asset. If you want to grow your business, you need to position yourself as a survival asset, meaning if I'm closer to you, I have a higher chance of surviving. Well, Sidekick is a survival asset,
Yes.
so you put it right there in the name. It's really, I'd say it's pretty darn good.
Yes.
I can't think of an improvement.
Oh, good. Thanks for that. All right. We did well. How does the framework, because prior to today, I was more familiar with the framework than I was the Soundbites. And now that you've explained the Soundbites, it makes sense to me. But how should companies be thinking about defining their framework and then developing their Soundbites? Do they work together like that?
Yeah, I would actually say, get those 5 sound bites done and ship them and execute them. Problem, empathy, answer, change, end result. Those 5 sound bites, and rewind this podcast if you want to know more, or if you want to hear it again. Get those things done and execute on those. The actual StoryBrand framework in building a StoryBrand is sort of the foundational philosophical narrative of why those sound bites work and where they come from and how the brain works and all that sort of stuff. It'll convince you that these sound bites are necessary. But my next book is going to be called Soundbite Strategy, and it'll have these 5 sound bites in there.
Can't wait to get that. That's going to be really good. As you think about what the future of your business looks like and people want to engage, is it going to be more events? Obviously now you're at a very successful point of your career. Many people know what you do and how you do it. How are you going to help as many people as possible? Like, what's the plan for you?
I just bought a building in Nashville, Tennessee, across from the Virgin Hotel, and I'm turning the bottom of it into an executive training center. And we will have about 100 people. We're going to start with just twice a year, and hopefully move to every month, where they'll come in and I'll help them figure out their Soundbites. That's where I'm wired like a professor. I love a classroom. I love teaching. I love just giving you the words that you need to say. And so that's how I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I also where I do Soundbite sessions with individual companies where you bring me your entire team and we get it done in a day. And so those are the two ways that I personally help you. And then I've certified about close to 500 really good existing marketing agents, marketing freelancers.
We've used some of your certified
They're
agents.
really good.
Yeah.
And they're at marketingmadesimple.com. And so I have a lot of kind of StoryBrand disciples out there. And some of them, I dare say, are better than me. I'm not going to name names 'cause I don't want to get a big head, but they're really good. And so that, those 500 people are out there helping thousands and thousands of businesses as well. But we see results. I mean, we see results so quick, when you change the words. It's really nice.
Can we talk about the certification for a minute? Because I always find that fascinating. I know Dave Ramsey does something like that. You do that. Like, how do you first get something like that going? So you created the framework, and now you have to go get people to believe in it enough that they're going to devote a significant part of their careers into teaching your methodologies to other people. How did that begin?
Well, I wrote the book, Building a StoryBrand. The book became a bestseller, and I was getting, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of people were contacting my office saying, can you make my website? And I realized, this could be a significant ad agency or marketing agency, but I don't want to run a marketing agency. I'm a professor. And so, the light bulb went on one night when I was going to sleep. Thought, wait, there's already tens of thousands, millions, in fact, of freelance marketers out there. Why don't I just train them and then just say, go to that guy? And so I did that and had about 40 or 50 marketing folks show up. I realized they actually know more about marketing than I do. I know messaging, but they know brand colors, brand identity. They know how to use HubSpot, Salesforce, all because I don't know how to use any of that stuff. And so I indoctrinated them into the actual messaging part of it, and it was a match made in heaven. And then it became a community of 500 people who really they're just quirky artists and business leaders who just have a lot of fun together. And now it's like family.
That's incredible. I got to ask this question. So I've been sitting here, and when you have kids, you're always trying to find the superpowers, right? Like, what are they really good at? And sometimes they develop later in life. But you're sitting here, and you have said so many things that I'm like, this guy's superpower is obviously words.
Yeah.
When did you figure this out? Like, when did you figure out this is your thing, Don?
I'm grateful to have one because I don't have any others. I'll tell you that right now. I'm grateful to have something that I'm good at. It was almost a strikeout, But when I was in high school, I went to a debate. This is literally where it started. I went to see a debate between the chairman of the American debate team or club or whoever he was and somebody else. I don't remember who it was. This guy's name was Clark. And the cameras that they were recording the debate, and they couldn't get the cameras to work. And so they had to take a 10-minute break before the debate would start. And somebody in the audience knew who this guy was. I didn't know who he was. And they said, recite a poem. And they knew that this guy had memorized a ton of poetry. Well, I'd never read a poem in my life. And this guy, good-looking guy, later I think he ran for Congress. This guy starts reciting poetry, and I'm looking around at these girls in this audience. And I'm like, they're crazy about this dude.
Yeah.
I think I had 10 poems memorized the next day.
Oh,
I mean, I would literally go to keg parties in high school, and I'd say, you guys want to hear a poem? Yeah. And I became like that guy. Yeah. And the guy who played tuba in high school and was terribly overweight suddenly had girls coming up going, did you write that? I'm like, no, Lord Byron wrote that. But, it's a good one, right?
Right.
And that kind of funny way of being introduced to words stuck. And I think at one point I had at least 100 poems memorized. And when you memorize poetry, you learn an economy of words. You learn how to say things so truncated. I'll tell you how the sun rose, a ribbon at a time. The steeple swam in amethyst. The news like squirrels ran. The hills untied their bonnets. The bobbling's begun. Then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. Right? Emily Dickinson.
Wow.
That's a wonderful description of a sunrise. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes. That's a hell of a line.
Yeah.
And he just described a really beautiful woman to him. And I got hooked on being able to say things, being able to put images and pictures in people's heads using words to do it. And that turned into book writing, and then I wrote a bunch of books, and I just fell in love with words. But more than words, I fell in love with communicating ideas in sound bites that could explode a whole world into your brain. And I got hooked on it. I remember reading Steinbeck and reading of Mice and Men, and Larry is walking, and Steinbeck magically says he swung his arms lightly with his palms facing backward. That's all he said. And I knew immediately that he was a mentally challenged adult. Immediately, because you don't realize, when I'm with somebody who has a mental disability like that, or that's how they walk. And he said it without saying it. And I just thought, this is magic, man. This is magic. And I just got hooked on that. And I had no idea I'd become a capitalist and turn it into a bunch of money, but that's
such a
how it
fantastic
all
story,
started.
Don.
Yeah, it all started by trying to get girls to like me in high school.
Well, then you realize after the words, the money helped to get girls too, right? So you had to turn it into
The money works better than the poetry. I'll tell you that right now.
So good. How early? So, for somebody who's considering a business, how early is messaging? How early should they be working on messaging? Is it the very
Before
first
you
thing?
build your business.
Yeah. Yep. I figured.
Yeah, you've got to know if you can't message it, you can't sell it. So don't start the business until you can stand in line at Starbucks and somebody says, I want to buy that.
Yep. And all businesses in some way have a message that would work. Is that true?
Yeah.
There's never a business that you just like, oh, you're lost. You can't find a message for this.
No.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if you've sold one, you have a viable product.
Right.
Somebody wanted to buy it. Somebody saw it as a survival asset. So what you need to do now is reduce the number of hurdles between them hearing about it and buying it. And that is all about the sound bites that you use.
Very good. I don't know.
I know. I'm trying to think of anything else.
I think it's good.
fantastic. I'm trying to memorize everything, right? I'm trying to memorize my poems of Don.
Well, I guess then, since we can't think of anything else to ask, your impact has been very meaningful to us. For those people that are considering using one of your certified agents, I would highly recommend it, because one of your certified agents helped us build our first website, helped us build some of our messaging.
Yeah, and they're at marketingmadesimple.com.
Great. Yep. I would encourage people to go and find that. Thank you for being here on the podcast. Thank you for being our
pleasure.
keynote. I know our audience of about 350 people, like your first one, is going to just get tremendous value out of you. So
I can't wait.
yeah, appreciate you being here very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on the Sidekick Life, where we highlight true sidekicks, entrepreneurs who've got their customers' backs, solve real-world problems, and after helping enough people, get to live the life they've always dreamed of. We'll see you next time.